Frederic just exploded. It grew rapidly in the southeastern Gulf, and it was just a dramatic intensification. Many people just wrote it off. At where I was working at in the radio, they were throwing away the advisories when it was in the area of Cuba because it had been diminished. And I said, no, it's not over yet.
I'm here on Dauphin Island, where in September 1979, the eye of Hurricane Frederic would make a direct landfall. However, even 24 hours before Hurricane Frederic even made landfall, there was still some uncertainty where the hurricane was eventually going to strike.
They did not have the computer models and the tools that we have nowadays. For example, when the hurricane warning was issued about 24 hours prior to landfall, that warning stretched from Grand Isle, Louisiana, all the way east to Panama City, Florida.
Hurry it up, you only got 1 hour.
Along with the expansive warning, there was also a massive evacuation order that was issued. Even though it had been about 50 years since the Mobile area's last major hurricane, the evacuation order was taken seriously.
And it was because of those large widespread evacuations along Mobile, Baldwin counties that the fatality rate was low. Fortunately in Frederic, given how strong the storm was, how devastating the storm surge was, those evacuations did save lives.
Frederic brought more than 10 feet of storm surge to our coast and around 8 to 10 feet of storm surge on Mobile Bay, like where I'm standing at in Daphne, which means I would have been underwater.
As you would go across the bayway, you could look and see all the restaurants were gone. It was quite an amazing sight. Rousseau's, which was a very famous seafood restaurant on the causeway, it was destroyed.
Surge, though, was only part of the equation when it comes to Frederic.
And in fact, you talk to any locals across the area, Frederic is known for its wind. Now, as much as the surge, the wind definitely wreaked havoc.
One of the most noticeable things was the loss of so many trees. It was the first time since 1926 that we had a thinning of the tree population. The other thing, of course, is so much of the wiring in Mobile was put underground after 1979. And that was important because we've had some significant hurricanes since then.
There's no doubt that we're much better equipped to deal with a hurricane today compared to 1979. However, as last hurricane season proved, we're not completely immune.
As Hurricane Michael proved, communications can still come to a halt during a very damaging storm like a Frederic, like a Hurricane Michael. So communications would likely be down in some areas, and would also power. We still rely on power, even more so nowadays, and that would likely be out for several weeks across parts of the area.
A lot has changed since Frederic in 1979, but the one thing that hasn't changed is that you always need to be ready for the next storm. I'm meteorologist Thomas Gieboy, WKRG News 5.